This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 metal bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Vietnam. Hello, Charlene. Good to see you back.
Hello, Alma. Thank you so much. And hello to everyone who's watching. I'm Charlene Nabaha from our EBC Vietnam Bureau, bringing you the latest news in the ASEAN Bureau.
And for the headlines, the Myanmar junta has charged a Japanese journalist under a fake news law.
Vietnam has detected 4 cases of a COVID-19 variant believed to be behind a devastating surge of the virus in India.
Singapore has just announced new restrictions as infection clusters grow.
And Indonesia detects India and South Africa variants, plus migrant workers prioritized to receive COVID vaccines.
Vietnam has detected 4 cases of a COVID-19 variant believed to be behind a devastating surge of the virus in India. And also the Ministry of Health has said that the coronavirus variants in the UK and India are behind the newly detected cases there. Here's Micah Gwyneth Apostol from our EBC Vietnam Bureau, bringing us some updates on that news. Hello, Micah.
Hello, Alma. Here's the latest news in Vietnam. India and UK variants behind new COVID-19 cases in Vietnam. The coronavirus variants in the United Kingdom and India are behind the newly detected COVID-19 cases in the provinces of Vinh Phuc, Ha Nam, Hung Yen, and Ha Thi, according to results of genomic sequencing tests announced by the Ministry of Health on May 4. In the context of the pandemic evolving complicatedly in some neighboring countries, a number of Vietnamese localities have reported clusters of community infections in recent days. All the latest local infections are linked to both Vietnamese and foreign nationals who tested positive for COVID-19 after completing a 14-day quarantine period in Vietnam. A man who returned home to the area from Japan tested positive for COVID-19 this week after a 14-day quarantine and gave the virus to his family, according to the Ministry of Health. A total of 6 people in the area, including the man who returned from Japan, have tested positive, the ministry said. Media reports said infections had also been found in Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, and northern Hung Yen province. The Ministry of Health has directed the leading institutes to conduct genomic sequencing of the new COVID-19 cases to assess the risks and to take appropriate prevention and control measures. The National Institute of Hygiene and Epidemiology took samples of COVID-19 patients in 4 aforementioned provinces to carry out genomic sequencing tests to determine the origin of infections. The results pointed out that samples of 3 patients in Vinh Phuc who are employees at Sony Club showed these cases were infected with B16172 variant discovered in India. Meanwhile, 6 samples taken in Ha Nam, 2 in Hung Yen, and 2 in Ha Thi tested positive for the B117 variant found in the UK. The discovery of the variant came as more than 1,000 people in a village in Ha Nam province, close to Hanoi, were put under lockdown Thursday. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Micah, for your updates there. Please do take care.
Thank you, Alma. Take care, too. Reporting live in Da Nang, Vietnam. This is Micah Gwyneth Apostol. We live in interesting times.
And let's head on to Bangkok and get the latest situation there. Here's Faye Barte of EBC Thailand Bureau. Faye?
Good afternoon to you, Charlene, and to all our viewers. This is the latest update here in Bangkok. According to CCSA, or the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, the COVID-19 is raging in Greater Bangkok, including several crowded communities in the capital. And according to the Bangkok Post, infections were partly linked to visits to pubs and Songkran travel or Songkran festival. Dr. Tawisin Visanuyotin, the spokesman for the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, said on Tuesday that from April 28, the number of COVID-19 cases in Greater Bangkok surpassed those in 73 provinces combined. And the first COVID-19 case in the areas was detected in a poverty-stricken, crowded community and linked to a visit to an entertainment place. And before the infection was detected, there had been parties with friends, and it was then passed to family members and groups of friends in other communities. The spokesman also mentioned the COVID-19 spread in communities of Siek Mahanak sub-district in Bangkok's Dusit district. And according to the spokesman, infection there started on April 9 and also surged after the Songkran holiday. And it began with 3 clusters. One was linked to visits to pubs in Ratchadapisek area on April 7 to April 8, and infections were combined on April 14 to April 15. The second cluster covered company employees who went to the Rama 2 area, and infections were confirmed on April 16. The third cluster was a group of friends staying on rafts in Kanchanaburi province. On April 21, mass testing was done on 447 people, and 22 of whom tested positive. A Myanmar employee there fell sick first on April 17, and he then spreads the disease to colleagues on their relatives. Dr. Tawisin also said that 9 people living near the factory contracted the disease, and of 323 workers at the factory, 151 or 46.8% were infected. And the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration set up a command center exclusively to fight COVID-19 in Greater Bangkok. And the cases nowadays here in the Kingdom of Thailand, Charlene, is 2,112. And another update that we can share is all foreigners living here in Thailand are all eligible to receive the COVID vaccine. And another there, because we all know that the third wave is hugging the areas of the Kingdom of Thailand, curfew has been implemented. However, Bangkok hasn't declared curfew hours or nighttime restrictions. And another restrictions that everybody must follow is the mandatory wearing of a face mask. Back to you, Charlene.
Thank you for the update, Faye. So please do take care.
Thank you also, Charlene. You take care also there in Vietnam. This is Faye Barte reporting live in Bangkok, Thailand Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
And from Thailand, we now go to Cambodia, where journalists were ordered to stop reporting from COVID red zones, blockaded COVID red zones. To tell us more about this, Crystal Ann Ballesteros joins us live from Cambodia. Hello, Crystal Ann.
Hi, Alma. That is correct. Cambodia ordered journalists to stop reporting from blockaded coronavirus red zones, warning they would face prosecution. The ministry said some journalists had reported from red zones and banned areas such as treatment centers and hospitals. It also said some had chased ambulances and caused confusion and unrest. The order comes as residents living in red zones complained about food shortages and took to social media to appeal for essential aid. Cambodian residents in the red zones to apply for food aid and said they distributed rice and canned fishes to tens of thousands of households each day. The subcommittee for COVID-19 tracing today revealed the 8 villages in Phnom Penh which have the highest number of COVID-19 cases. The 8 villages are Trupenglong 1 Village and Tulpongro Village in Pusenchai District, Dumaktom Village, Dumaktom 1 Village, and Dumaktom 2 Village in Menchay District, Demchan Village in Chubay Ampao District, Dumkor Village and Troychongva and Cross Village in Prekno districts. The Ministry of Health calls for people in these villages to monitor their health and report to the authorities immediately if they start having symptoms such as cough, fever, and sore throats. Phnom Penh and adjacent city Takmau have been under lockdown for 20 days and the government has announced the blanket would end from Thursday. But authorities said areas with high infection rates would remain under lockdown. The country has seen COVID-19 cases surge since February when an outbreak was first detected among its Chinese expatriate community. On Tuesday, officials announced a record of 938 new infections, bringing the total cases to 16,299 with 107 deaths. Authorities have transformed schools and wedding party halls into COVID-19 treatment centers as hospitals are running out of beds, and Prime Minister Hun Sen warned the country was on the brink of death from the virus outbreak. Back to you, Alma.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Crystal. Looking forward to more developments out of Cambodia. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well, Alma. And keep safe there in the Philippines. Reporting live here in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, I am Crystal Ann Ballesteros, and we live in interesting times.
Maldives still welcoming Indians, and they can only stay in boats or resorts. Here's Steffi Di Juan of EBC Maldives. Steffi?
Hello, Charlene. Good afternoon. And yes, Maldives is still welcoming Bollywood stars and other rich Indians to its secluded beaches and crystal clear lagoons, even as countries ban flights because of a brutal COVID surge. But holidaymakers arriving from India now can only stay at a resort or a safari boat and are not allowed to check into guest houses in inhabited islands where locals are also live. Toyib Mohammed, the head of the country's tourism authority, Visit Maldives, said the geographical location of the islets helped them to minimize the virus risk. He said each islet is a self-contained single resort. Even if we have a few cases popping up here and there, we can contain it within the resorts without exposing the local population. Bollywood stars escaping India in recent weeks include Alia Bhatt, her partner Ranbir Kapoor, and Shraddha Kapoor, who posted Instagram photos of herself doing yoga at sunset at a Maldives resorts. Meanwhile, 99% of resort employees in the Maldives received the first dose of COVID-19 vaccines, while 25% of them got fully vaccinated. The Maldives plans to attract more visitors by creating the first fully vaccinated tourism sector in the world. Earlier, the Tourism Ministry of the Maldives, alongside Visit Maldives, launched the I Am Vaccinated campaign to share a positive message about the vaccination of staffs working in the tourism sectors. Moreover, the campaign promotes the initiative undertaken to guarantee the Maldives remain one of the safest destinations in the world for travelers. Maldives is also planning to offer COVID-19 vaccines to travelers under the Visit Vaccinate Vacation Initiative. This initiative will begin once all the residents of the Maldives get fully vaccinated. The island nation targets to welcome 1.5 million tourists in 2021. The World Bank has projected Maldives' GDP will increase by 17.1% this year, thanks to tourism. However, the country will only reach its pre-pandemic levels of tourism's output in 2023. And that's my quick update from Maldives. Back to you, Charlene.
That sounds like a great plan for Maldives government, but still do take care, Steffi.
Yeah, Charlene, that's correct. You always take care. And reporting live from Maldives, this is Stephanie Juan, and we live in interesting times.
To Singapore now, where the country has just announced new restrictions as infection clusters there grow. Joining us live is Phoebe Grace de Guzman from our EBC Singapore Bureau. Hello, Phoebe.
Hi, Alma. Thank you. Yes, Singapore did announce a slew of new coronavirus restrictions yesterday, including a ban on spectators at sporting events as infections rise in the wealthy city-state. Gatherings will be limited to the groups of 5 or more people will be required to work from home. Officials said at press conference on Tuesday, indoor gyms and fitness studios will be closed. Indoor gyms and fitness studios will be closed and numbers further reduced for conferences, weddings, and funerals. Travelers arriving from most countries will be required to quarantine for 3 weeks instead of 2. Health Minister Gan Kim-yong said the next few weeks will be critical. He warned of the further measures if the situation deteriorates, including the possibility of another partial lockdown. After a partial lockdown and rigorous regime of testing and contact tracing, COVID-19 had almost disappeared in Singapore, with authorities in recent months reporting hardly any local transmission. But cases rose last week, with officials announcing several new clusters, and in the last 7 days, 60 local transmitted infections have been reported. A cluster at one of the Singapore's biggest hospitals has grown to 40 cases, including an 88-year-old patient who died on Saturday. Singapore's infection numbers have been very low compared with the rest of the world, but the new clusters have raised fears of resurgence in the tiny city-state, whose economy suffered its worst ever recession last year due to the virus. There are also concerns that clusters could scupper a quarantine-free travel bubble between Singapore and Hong Kong, due to begin on May 26 after an earlier failed attempt. Singapore beat back serious coronavirus outbreaks last year when the illness surged through crowded dormitories, housing low-paid foreign workers, infecting tens of thousands. But by global standards, its outbreak has been mild. Officials in the city of 5.7 million have reported about 61,000 cases so far and 31 deaths. Back to you, Alma.
All right, thank you very much. That was Phoebe Grace de Guzman reporting. There you go, I can see you now. Thank you very much for your updates there in Singapore.
Thank you so much, Alma. You take care always. This is Phoebe Grace from Singapore, EBC Singapore Bureau. We live in interesting times.
And Malaysia to place 6 Selangor districts under first-tier MCO. Here's Alfred Balmes of Malaysia. Alfred?
Hi, Charlene. Good afternoon. Malaysia will be placing 6 out of 9 district and densely populated Selangor state under the first-tier movement caps for 12 days from Thursday, May 6. The Selangor district to be placed under the full movement control order are Petaling, Hulu Langkat, Gombak, Klang, Kuala Langkat, and Sepang. Dine-ins are banned in restaurants in this district. However, Defense Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob at a news conference on Tuesday denied there would be a widespread lockdown as widely speculated on Monday. Drawing lessons from its last MCOs, which caused job losses and badly affected the economy, Malaysia will allow business activities in these 6 districts to continue but with shorter hours. COVID-19 cases have surged above 2,000 a day from the middle of last month. Cases have breached the 3,000 mark in 5 of the last 7 days. Health authorities are warning that the country's healthcare system is under strain. Active cases have more than doubled in the past month, with a record number of patients admitted to intensive care unit. Malaysia, for the second year, banned the annual balik kampung or return to hometowns exodus as interstate travel remains banned to curb infection from the big city to spread to rural area. As a separate news conference, Science, Technology and Innovation Minister Khairi Hamaldin said the government is rolling out a data-driven hotspot identification system to quickly pinpoint trouble spots. Called Hotspot Identification for Dynamic Engagement, the system will publicly list premises that are designated as hotspot to warn the public to avoid them and for the owners of such premises to take remedial action. He said that as at Monday, there have been 1,660 hotspots identified nationwide, ranging from the shopping malls to supermarket to food bazaar. Back to you, Charlene.
Thank you so much for that quick update, Alfred. Please do take care too.
Likewise. This reporting from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This is Alfred Barmes. We live in interesting time.
From Malaysia, we now go to Indonesia, where the country has detected the Indian and South African variants. Plus, migrant workers are now prioritized to receive their COVID vaccines. Joining us live from Jakarta, here's December Paras. Hello, December.
Hello, Ms. Alma. For the latest news here, Indonesia has detected coronavirus variants linked to more transmissible variants first detected in India and South Africa. It was detected ahead of the Eid al-Fitr season when mobility is expected to rise, which has caused concerns of possible case resurgence as seen in other countries. Health Minister Budi Gunadi Sadikin said there were 2 new mutations that entered the country, one from India with 2 incidents in Jakarta and one from South Africa in Bali. Another official confirmed the 2 cases were the B1617 variant first detected in India. Indonesia last month stopped issuing visas for foreigners who had been in India in the previous 14 days. Authorities in Indonesia, which is the world's largest Muslim majority country, have banned the traditional mass exodus where people visit relatives for the Eid al-Fitr festival for a second year to curb COVID-19 transmission. Indonesia has reported more than 1.67 million virus infections and 45,700 deaths since the start of the pandemic, though cases have been declining since peaking in January. In another development, Antara News reported that Manpower Minister Ida Fauzia has encountered or encouraged prospective Indonesian migrant workers, or CPMI, departing for placement countries to be included among priority recipients of the COVID-19 vaccine. In addition to prospective Indonesian workers, or TKI, Minister Fauzia highlighted the need for prospective apprentices who will be placed abroad to become a priority for recipients of the COVID-19 vaccine. In a series of vaccination programs targeting 800 workers, the Ministry of Manpower aims to vaccinate trade union members and laborers, prospective Indonesian migrant workers, and apprentices departing the country. The program was implemented as part of the commemoration of Labor Day, or May Day 2021, and part of the government steps to deal with COVID-19 and its impact on the health and labor sectors. Back to you, Ms. Alma.
Thank you very much, December. You do take care over there, and looking forward to more updates from Jakarta. Thank you.
Take care too. Thank you for having me today, Ms. Alma. Reporting from Jakarta, Indonesia, this is December Paras. We live in interesting times.
Continues here on ASEAN in Focus. Charlene and I will be back right after this break.
This portion is brought to you by Security Bank.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
Kumanta, sumaya tayong lahat. Kasaya-saya.
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. Now we go to Myanmar. The Myanmar junta has charged a Japanese journalist under a fake news law. Reporter Yuki Kitazumi was arrested last month and charged on Monday, World Press Freedom Day, with spreading fake news, according to a report by Kyodo News Agency. He is one of the 50 journalists currently held in Myanmar as part of the junta's crackdown on widespread protests against the February 1st coup. Kyodo cited an unnamed Japanese embassy official saying Kitazumi had no health problems despite spending several weeks in Yangon's Ensign prison, which has a long and unsavory reputation for holding political prisoners. Kitazumi has been in custody since April 18, the second time he had been arrested since the coup. In February, he was beaten up and briefly held during a crackdown on protesters but was later released. Japan, for years a top aid donor to Myanmar, has been pressing for his release. Naturally, we will continue to do our utmost for the early release of the Japanese national. Being held, Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi told Japanese journalists during a trip to Britain, according to a national broadcaster, NHK. A total of 766 civilians have been killed in the military crackdown on protests, according to the Association for Political Prisoners, or AAPI, a local monitoring group. As well as arresting journalists, the generals have also sought to clamp down on news on the crisis by shuttering independent media outlets and throttling internet speeds.
Meanwhile, the G7 foreign ministers gathered in London on Tuesday with human rights and protecting democracy high on the agenda. British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab addressed the issue of the political crisis in Myanmar. Let's listen in.
We've been engaged with the partners of the region. I've been discussing that with ASEAN foreign ministers recently, and we've obviously got the opportunity with the G7 guests here from Korea, from India, from Australia, but also the foreign minister from Brunei, chair of the of ASEAN at the moment, to discuss how we shift the dial and get a change for the better in Myanmar. And so we'll keep up all of those efforts on the sanctions side, but also on the diplomacy front.
The three-day talks in London will set the stage for Leaders Summit next month in southwest England on what will be President Biden's first foreign trip. South Korea, as well as India, Australia, South Africa, and ASEAN Bloc Chair Brunei were invited by Britain as guests for meetings of the Club of Seven Wealthy Democracy. Pro-democracy protests have taken place in cities and towns across Myanmar since the February 1 military takeover, and the military overthrew the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi, detained her and other leaders of the National League for Democracy, and then cracked down with lethal force on anti-coup protesters. At least 766 people have been killed since the coup d'etat, according to the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, a local monitoring group.
During the press briefing of Presidential Spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque Jr. on Tuesday, National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer and Vaccine Czar, Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said that they are planning to scale up the country's vaccine rollout to inoculate 500,000 individuals a day, or 3 million individuals per week. Secretary Galvez also said that the country is expecting the arrival of around 4 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines this May. Let's take a look.
Yun ang tinitingnan po natin dahil kasi kung titingnan po natin na ang ating rollout, kailangan po talaga umangat ang ating rollout na more or less 4 million a month. Yun po ang pinakamaganda. And then ang isa po na tinitingnan po natin na bakit nagkaroon tayo ng parang slippage in terms of yung ating target sa ating rollout is because of the lack of the supply. So ngayon Angat natin na meron tayong 4 million ngayong May. Most likely, yun ang target namin na iangat namin na 2 million. And then later, this coming June, ang target namin ay magkaroon kami ng more or less, meron kaming 1 million per week or more or less 4 million a month. So ganun po ang gagawin po natin, i-scale up natin until such time na we can achieve yung 500,000 a day or 3 million a week.
The government is targeting to achieve herd immunity in the National Capital Region, or NCR, and nearby provinces by November. National Task Force, or NTF, against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Carlito Galvez Jr. said Tuesday. Galvez noted that the Philippines will need a stable supply, at least 15 million doses per month, so it can inoculate about 70% of the population before the end of the year.
Staying in the Philippines, the government is targeting to achieve herd immunity in the National Capital Region and nearby provinces by November. That, according to earlier said by NTF Chief against COVID-19 and Chief Implementer Carlito Galvez Jr. He also noted that the Philippines will need a stable supply of at least 15 million doses per month so it can inoculate about the 70% of the population. Here is Secretary Carlito Galvez.
Ang ating pong inano sa Hari ay magkaroon po talaga tayo ng 10 to 15 million a month para magawa po natin talaga na matagpos po natin yung 50 million to 70 million na herd immunity target. At ito po ay natutuwa po kami dahil kasi po malaki po ang maitutulong ng Sputnik. B na magkaroon tayo na madagdagan tayo ng 20 million sa 148 million na target natin na magbibili ngayong taon. Ang target natin ay talagang kunin yung 70 million na herd immunity. Pero nakikita na natin ngayon with the constrictions of the global market, lalo na kung yun ang nangyayari sa India, na nahandon yung 30 million natin na mga vaccine na kinuha. So there is a possibility talaga na magkaroon ng delay. So in case na magkaroon tayo ng delay, and we were not able to substitute yung mga vaccine na makukuha natin sa mga lugar na nakita natin na nakakaroon ng constriction, ang ginagawa natin, we will have a realistic target of having a range of 50 to 70 million. So in order to really get the same effect, kunin natin yung mga strategic areas wherein doon nagkaroon ng tinatawag nating affectation. At the same time, it has the highest economic and social impact. So yun ang ginagawa nating strategy kasi kung nakikita natin na realistically we will have a shortfall of supply, we need to strategize that we will get the same effect. Nagkaroon kami ng simulation. Ang tawag namin doon yung kay Pepot's model. Yung si Mr. Pepot is siya yung pinaka-logistic officer ng Jollibee. He is one of our supply chain expert. Ang ano natin is we can have the herd immunity sa NCR and the plus 6 provinces around NCR by November. Yun ang tinitingnan namin, 180 days. But ang target natin sa iba is we will scale up to 213 days with more or less with the same tinatawag natin productivity of having more or less yung target natin is sa NCR 120,000 a day. But in our national target, 500,000 jobs a day.
To date, the Philippines has administered some 1,948,080 COVID vaccines for 1,658,539 Filipinos. The percentage to achieve herd immunity can't be determined yet, according to the World Health Organization, as COVID-19 is a new disease and further studies must be made.
The rollout of Sputnik V vaccines began in the city of Manila on Tuesday, starting with the healthcare workers. The Russian jabs were delivered on Monday to the Santa Ana Hospital where the vaccination took place. Manila Vice Mayor Honey Lacuna Pangan, also a medical doctor, said medical frontliners remained the priority in accordance with the Department of Health, or DOH, and the Interagency Task Force, or IATF, guidelines. When done with the frontliners, the jabs will be given to the A2 or senior citizens and A3 with comorbidities group. As of noon, 59 medical frontliners have received the Sputnik V jabs. The frontliners either did not want the Sinovac and AstraZeneca vaccines previously offered or contracted COVID-19 and had to recover first. The rollout was witnessed by City Administrator Felix Espirito, DOH Secretary Francisco Duque III, DOH National Capital Region Director Dr. Gloria Balboa, and DOH Assistant Secretary Elmer Ponzalan.
Some 800 frontliners, senior citizens, and persons with comorbidities received the highly anticipated first dose of Sputnik V vaccine in Makati City yesterday, marking the Russian-made jab's initial rollout in the Philippines. Makati is among the 5 cities to receive 3,000 doses of Sputnik V for having the capacity to store the vials with a temperature not exceeding minus 18 degrees Celsius. National Task Force, or NTF, against COVID-19 Deputy Chief Implementer and Testing Czar, Secretary Vince Dizon, said the recipient cities must administer the entire 15,000 doses that were delivered last May 1, as the second doses, which have yet to arrive, have a different property than the first. Gamaleya Research Institute earlier said that Sputnik V only uses E1 and E3 type non-replicating adenoviral vectors, which are harmless for the human body.
And Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion, discussed a memorandum released by Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, which encourages all employees to get vaccinated against COVID-19. He said this will not only to protect their co-workers, but achieve herd immunity as well.
Well, nag-usap kami ni Sec Bello na dapat mag-issue yung DOLE ng isang memorandum para encourage lahat ng mga empleyado, no, na magpabakuna. Kasi kung 70% lang sa mga empleyado ang kukuha ng bakuna, hindi natin ma-achieve yung herd immunity sa bansa natin. At yung mga factory safety namin, pag 70% lang, paano mangyayari sa mga 30%? No? Yung 30% ay pwede pa rin ma-infect yung mga 70% kasi yung efficacy ng mga bakuna hindi naman 100%. It ranges between 50% to as high as 90% depending yung vaccine brand. So, nag-issue na rin ng memorandum si Sec Bello, sinend sa akin at nagpasalamat rin ako sa kanya sa tulong, no? So, kailangan talaga yung focus natin pagdating ng AstraZeneca vaccine dito sa June. Marami yan, 17 million. Magsisimula yan sa 1.3 million doses ang mauna darating dito sa buwan ng Hunyo. So that is going to help about close to 100 companies. Itong mga pinakamalaking kumpanya na una dito bumili ng AstraZeneca, mga conglomerates natin katulad ng ICDSI, Ayala, SM, Lusutan, Megaworld, lahat yan. Kasama rin ang Philippine Franchising Association, Philippine Retailers Association. Yun ang unang batch, no? 2 batch yan eh. Yung kasunod na batch dadating ng mga July onward. So, kinuha ng private sector na logistics provider dito ang Zwellig. Kami rin ang magbabayad noon, no? So, pagdating ng aeroplano, kukunin ng Zwellig yung mga bakuna sa aeroplano, lalagay nila sa mga warehouse nila, sa mga chiller space kasi dito sa AstraZeneca, 2 to 8 degrees, no? Pagkatapos, nakaplano rin lahat ng mga korporasyon, sila nang bahala pumili sinong private sector implementer sa pagbabakuna sa mga empleyado nila. Nandiyan ang Unilab, Makati Medical, at marami pa, no? Ayala, lahat yan. So, I think we have about over 200 private sector companies that will do the vaccine. So, lahat yan nakahanda na. At yun ang ilulunsad namin dito sa Let's Go Bakuna. Kasi, complete na tayo at may mga dumating pa ng mga vaccines. So, mas maraming darating na vaccines. Pero, vaccine confidence at vaccine implementation, yun ang kailangan natin gawin. Vaccine confidence, kailangan at least 80%. And then, vaccine implementation, kailangan publishan natin ang pababaguna sa mga empleyado kasi dapat mauna tayo sa mga variants kasi nag-mutate yan, no? So, the faster we implement, then we can stop this infection from going all over, no?
Malacanang appreciates Hong Kong's decision to suspend its policy on compulsory COVID-19 vaccination of foreign domestic workers before their contracts can be renewed. Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam Cheng Yuet Ngor has decided to put on hold the plan to require vaccination of domestic helpers following accusations of discrimination. Lam, however, said the government is still pushing through with its mandatory COVID testing for all domestic helpers by May 9.
Well, we appreciate po the gesture of Madam Lam. And of course, we welcome also the mandatory testing. No? In fact, we are also ramping up our own testing here in the Philippines because talaga naman pong pag hindi mo tinest, hindi mo alam kung nasa na ating kalaban.
Day, Secretary Roque echoed the remarks made by Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. and Philippine Consul General to Hong Kong, Rally Tejada, urging Hong Kong not to single out overseas Filipino workers in its push for mandatory COVID vaccination of foreign domestic helpers. Locsin said Hong Kong's COVID-19 vaccination requirement smacks of discrimination, and if it is a special favor, it's unfair to other nationalities. Tejada said the policy must not only include foreign domestic workers but other non-resident workers who are similarly situated so that there is no feeling of being singled out. While he acknowledged Hong Kong's sovereign prerogative to implement compulsory COVID vaccination, Secretary Roque noted that it must be done in a manner that all people will be covered.
And ASEAN in Focus will be right back after a short break.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back. Chinese Navy ships have arrived off Bali to help haul up a submarine that sank last month, killing 53 crew, according to the Indonesian Navy on Tuesday, as it geared up for a deep-sea salvage operation. The help arrived after other foreign ships from Australia, Singapore, and Malaysia left the archipelago, having assisted Indonesian authorities in finding the stricken vessel. The Cree Nanggala 402, one of 5 submarines in Indonesia's fleet, disappeared last month while it was scheduled to take part in live torpedo training exercises. An underwater rescue vehicle supplied by neighboring Singapore gave visual confirmation that the German-built sub was lying on the seafloor more than 800 meters or 2,600 feet deep, broken in 3 parts, confirming there was no hope of finding survivors. 2 Chinese salvage ships were on standby in waters off Bali, while a third was expected to arrive later. The Indonesian Navy said, adding that Chinese Navy officials in Bali were helping to examine data collected on the submarine. All 3 salvage ships can dive up to 4,500 meters deep. Indonesia's Navy said Beijing's ambassador to the country had offered the help to Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto. The military has yet to offer an official explanation for the sinking of the decades-old submarine, which was delivered to the Southeast Asian nation in 1981.
At a virtual seminar during the Manila-based Asian Development Bank's annual meeting, U.S. climate envoy John Kerry said island nations faced a situation beyond existential due to climate change. He called for an end to fossil fuel subsidies and coal plant financing. The 20 countries responsible for the most of the world's emissions had a special responsibility to take action, Kerry said, but warned they were not moving the same direction or fast enough.
A record-breaking investment in AAPI causes a stir, responding to a wave of recent hate crimes. Asian American leaders unveiled a new philanthropic group Monday, funded so far at some $250 million to counter discrimination. Calling itself the Asian American Foundation, the group said it was undertaking the largest philanthropic commitment in history by Asian Americans, fully focused on supporting Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. The AAF plans an official launch Tuesday with remarks from former Presidents Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. The effort comes about 6 weeks after a brutal series of shootings that killed 6 women of Asian descent who worked at massage parlors around Atlanta. And outrage was also stoked in late March following a brutal videotape assault of a 65-year-old Filipina American in New York. The foundation's president, Sonal Shah, said, "We created TAAF to stand up for the 23 million Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders living in this country and help bring us all together in the fight for our own prosperity." TAFF said it raised $125 million among its board, which includes Lilu, founder and chairman of Himalaya Capital, Yahoo co-founder Jerry Yang, and top executives from KKR and Citadel Securities. The group said it is also launching a fundraising drive. Its websites list a large number of corporate partners, including Amazon, Coca-Cola, Merck, Nike, and Walmart. U.S. media said these companies had pledged an additional $125 million.
And Singapore's government has released a catchy music video urging citizens to get vaccinated. The video features a popular 90s sitcom character sporting his signature afro, facial mole, and rubber boots, rapping about the benefits of vaccination in Singlish, a patois that mixes English with words from several local tongues. Let's take a look.
Cut! Good job, Chukang. Hey, thank you, Director. I go first, huh? Wait, please, we need your help. Okay, let's go! Some say lay, some say la. Guess who's back is Uncle Bob. And me anyhow wet, and against COVID, it will protect. Singapore, don't wait and see. When I get your shot, steady from BP. Faster go and vaccinate. Don't delay your wait.
But chronic illness still can take. I'm not sure, I'm quite afraid.
Chronic illnesses, mild allergies, all this can take. There you see. If not sure, relax, don't panic. Ask your doctor at the clinic. It's safe for most, including elderly, cause the government got checked properly. Singapore, don't wait and see. Better get your shot. Steady from BP. Faster go and vaccinate. Don't delay your wait.
But COVID numbers now so low. Why take now? Just take it slow.
Low cases isn't no cases. Don't sabo and throw our faces. The vaccine don't just protect us. It lessens the spread. Now that's the plus. We don't catch it means we don't spread it like that. That can keep it
Catchy vaccination wrap.
Yeah, it's a really nice idea.
Indeed. Thank you, Charlene, for keeping me company today.
Yes, thank you so much, Alma, and to everyone who watched ASEAN in Focus. That's all the latest news in the dynamic ASEAN region. This has been Charlene Navaja. From our EBC Vietnam Bureau, we live in interesting times.
We'll see you back tomorrow. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.